Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video. This will take us around the 24th of November, so we're heading into the final stages of November with the week to 10 day updates now. So very mild conditions at the moment, going to stay very mild for the next couple of days, but then over the weekend it will start to cool down. Next week, we're still going to turn things colder. The detail on this cold weather is changing, as it always does, really, when you are before a cold spell. The detail in terms of how cold it's going to get, will there be any wintry weather in there with this cold weather, that always chops and changes from run to run. So at the moment, we're still in the phase where we're just trying to pin down the broad pattern, actually. It is still a few days away, so it is still potentially possible that this block could go horribly wrong. I don't think it will. I think we will get colder weather next week. But in terms of the small-scale detail, in terms of how cold will it get, how much of an easy fetch will we have, will the coldest of the air pass just to our south, will we get a direct hit, will there be any snow? All of that is still to be determined, and we'll have to wait 2 or 3 more days before we know just the extent of this colder weather. So you'll see variations from run to run, and I won't get too hung up on those. I see quite a lot of comments on social media and on forums about the changes that occur from one run to the next in terms of the small scale detail. But it's the bigger picture at this point that you should be focusing on in terms of the block and getting the block in place. And if you get block in place, then everything else can cascade from it. So I'll take you through the very latest developments with this cold weather coming up next week in a moment. We're also going to have a look at Beijing Climate Center for the next 40 days. And would you believe that takes us to Christmas Day? And talking of Christmas, we're going to have the latest Christmas update coming up for you at GEFS this evening. That'll be around 7 o'clock. But if I do anything else, I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest donors. Had 2 new donors for GEFS. So as always, if you give us a donation, you'll get a mention in the videos. So I'm going to say a big thank you to Clayton Barry. Big thank you to Clayton for becoming a GEFS donor. Clayton was asking whether he's going to need his snow tyres yet. And well, I'd say perhaps not just yet, but watch your space. You may need them before too much longer, Clayton. Big thank you to Clayton for becoming GEFS' latest donor. And also, big thank you to Philip O'Malley. Big thank you to Philip for also becoming a donor for GEFS. If you would like to join Clayton and Philip and become a donor for GEFS, then all you need to do is come to the GEFS.me PayPal page. I'm on that page right now. We link to this and all the pages at GEFS and in the description at YouTube. Just come here, sign into your PayPal account. Most people have one of those. And you can donate whatever amount of money you would like as a one-off donation. And a big thank you to Clayton, to Philip, and to all of the donors for GEFS for doing that. Alternatively, there's also the Patreon page. So if you'd like to become a patron for GEFS, then this is how you do it. You just go to the GEFS Patreon page. And again, we link to this and all the pages at GEFS and in the description at YouTube. So you come here, sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge an ongoing monthly donation. So the difference between PayPal is that that's one-off, whereas Patreon's like an ongoing donation, although, of course, you can cancel at any time. But the idea is behind this is it's ongoing sort of thing. And so you do that, and it can be anything from $1 a month or more upwards. And a big thank you again to all our patrons. We've got 38 patrons now. We're trying to get to 40 patrons before Christmas. So again, a big thank you to all of the patrons. Big thank you to all of the donors. So, guys, obviously you're helping us to pay for the website. There are costs involved in having the website. Of course, it costs increasing amounts of money to keep the website online and maintained. So again, big thank you to everybody for becoming patrons, donors, scouts. So there's also the Amazon shop, so you've got an English shop to do at Amazon between now and Christmas. All you need to do is go to the Christmas Amazon page, and then you can either use a search widget to search out whatever item you would like to buy for Christmas, or you can click through the Amazon banners and use their search widget when you get to Amazon. Either way, you're just doing your shopping at Amazon. You're not doing anything differently, just purely the fact we've gone from Gala service to Amazon that means we get the revenue fee on the Christmas presents that you are buying. Big thank you to everyone for doing that. Right, so with all that said, and thanks given, I think we better get on with today's video. So we're going to start off by having a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're going to get Leicester in the middle of the country today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Leicester, and we're starting off warmer than average. You're going to be remaining warmer than average for the next few days as well. Temperatures way above average, but as we go through to the weekend, we find a cooling process is taking place, returning back closer to average, and into next week, again, there we go, we're forecasting to go colder than average. The white line is the ensemble mean, and that is taking all those individual ensemble members together and grouping them into one individual line, and you can see that is going underneath red line. So we are going into a substantially cooler or even colder period than we have been in. We're going from sort of this level up here down to that level down there. So obviously a lot colder in the coming days, particularly as we get through into next week compared to where it had been. Precipitation wise, it remains very dry, so for the next week, no precipitation whatsoever. We go through next week and the precipitation spikes increase a little bit. They're not wet by any means, but they do increase a little bit. And a lot of that's probably showers being brought in off the North Sea, actually, with those easterly winds. So that's kind of like showery stuff. There's no sign of anything particularly wet in the next couple of weeks. No sign of any particular wet spell showing up there. So the dry spell continues. Temperature anomalies from the 14th to the 22nd of November are above average, a milder than average week coming up. These are lessening day by day, so the anomaly isn't as great as it was a couple of days ago. You see a few parts of Europe are actually starting to already turning a little bit cooler than average with their anomalies, such as northern France, Belgium and Holland. We in the UK and Ireland remain above average for the time being, but I would suspect these to be showing colder than average by around Friday. It will be interesting to see. Precipitation anomalies coming out substantially drier than average again. Hardly surprising given the ensemble chart we're just looking at. But for the UK, for Ireland, for France, for the Low Countries, for Germany, most parts of Europe again coming out substantially drier than average. Over in America, eastern parts of the states remain cold, so cold and average temperature anomalies in central and eastern parts of America. Out in the west, it remains milder there, warmer than average. Precipitation wise, it continues to be really dry in the west, so from a rainfall perspective there's not going to be any relief from the wildfires in California. It remains very, very dry on that Pacific side of America. In fact, much of the state's coming out drier than average, although in the far east of America it's a little bit wetter than average there. Also, interestingly, looks rather wet around Texas, but many places in between forecast to be drier than average. This is the latest run from the GFS then. So this is for Saturday. High pressure beginning to migrate from Central Europe up to Scandinavia, starting to tilt the wind into the southeast as we go through into Sunday and then on into Monday. That high pressure is strengthening over Scandinavia, so the wind is going directly into the east by that point. If you follow the isobars back, the air originates from around here, which is kind of like Russian border, moving across Europe and into the west, rather like that. So that is an easterly wind, although it's a little bit southeast of the east, but the air originates from the east, so it will be turning a lot cooler or colder the early part of next week. Most colder easterly winds are then maintained at the middle part of next week. Now, this particular GFS run is actually taking the coldest of the air just down to the south of us, with the easterly winds going through there. But obviously, it's just a very subtle difference, and I mean, we're talking about a week away, so expect changes on that anyway. But broad pattern is that the high pressure is in there over Scandinavia. The wind is in from the east, so you can expect it to be cold, just whether we get a direct hit of the coldest of the air and if there's anything particularly wintry coming through with those easterly winds. But it certainly will be feeling colder next week in those easterly winds. We move up towards day 10 and high pressure continues to dominate the weather. It's gradually retrogressing out to the northwest of the country. So that's the situation by day 10. High pressure has left Scandinavia and moved over towards Greenland and Iceland. So still the suggestion of retrogression, taking high pressure from east to west as opposed to the normal zonal flow, which is west to east. That leaves us still bringing down cold air from a north or northeasterly direction. If you look where the isobars are originating from there, it's a long way north up in the North Pole, and those northeasterly winds are being brought down into not just northern Europe but also out into western Europe as well. So still remaining cold up to day 10. There's the upper air temperatures. They look very cold across much of the continent. And the UK is cold enough. I mean, we're not as cold as it is over in Scandinavia. We're not as cold as it is across Germany or Poland, for example. But nevertheless, it still is cold enough. And certainly for the 24th of November, those are pretty cold upper air temperatures, to say the least. In the more extended range, this high pressure continues to be dominant to the north. So we're up to 300 hours away now. And high pressure is still in there over Scandinavia and to the north of the UK. So a large blocking feature setting up, and a long-lasting blocking feature as well. This is quite a long, cold spell that we're seeing here. The winds again are coming in from an east or northeasterly direction, so it will remain cold there going into the final days of November. That's how we look as far as we can go, and it takes us to the last day of November, where that high pressure is just beginning to break down perhaps a little bit, so maybe starting to move low pressure in from the Atlantic. If we could run on another day or two, we would possibly see something a bit milder and more unsettled starting to come in from off the Atlantic. Although, as far as we can go, which is to the 30th of November, upper air temperatures are remaining cold and very cold to the northeast and the east of us. So, going to take some shifting, but possibly signs of going a little bit milder there by the very end of the GFS run, or perhaps it'd be better to say a few days after the very end of the GFS run. This is a long cold spell that's setting up. It certainly looks like it's going to be a week in longevity. It could be more than that. This is how the ECMWF is looking. Again, high pressure in control sitting to our east on Sunday. It's beginning to edge up towards Scandinavia as well. As we go through to Sunday and Monday, there comes the easterly wind again, following the isobars that the air originates from up there. So those easterly winds are pushing in from Russia across much of Central and Northern Europe. We go into Tuesday and on into Wednesday. It's a little bit further north with that high pressure, so this is giving us almost a direct hit from the coldest of the air that's coming out of the east. Now, I say it's the coldest of the air. I don't think it's going to be like the beast from the east that we have back at the end of February. This is not going to give sub-zero daytime maxima and severe nighttime frost and widespread snow and blizzards. It isn't that kind of easterly, and the reason is because it's very early in the season. It's only the 21st of November on this chart that you're looking at, so that's really, really early in the season, and we just don't have the depth of cold to tap into at this point. Give it another month to 6 weeks, and we certainly would have a very extreme depth of cold with these sort of easterly winds, but at the moment we're still more or less in autumn. So this is an autumn east as opposed to a winter easterly, and therefore it's not going to be perishingly cold, but it will be a lot colder than we've been used to, and this is a direct hit almost of the coldest of the air, and so that would be generating showers, and they would possibly turn to sleet or snow at times in the east actually on this kind of scenario. I mean, it's the second half of next week, something quite interesting happens in that we develop this little area of low pressure coming out of the Low Countries and into the southern North Sea, and that runs in across England and Wales for the second half of next week. Now, we would need to wait till much, much closer to the time frame to see whether that would be bringing sleet or snow. It's possible it would be doing so, or whether it would just bring a lot of cold rain and maybe a little bit of sleetiness mixed in. And we wouldn't know until a lot closer to the time frame. But quite interesting anyway that we do bring a system out of the Low Countries and into the southern North Sea on the ECMWF run this morning with those east winds. But broad picture, the big picture, if you like, is still this large blocking feature. Notice it is moving from Scandinavia and heading from east to west towards Iceland and Greenland as well. That's how we finish up day 10, and with very blocked high pressures in over Greenland and Iceland, low pressures to the south of the UK, but winds from the east. So again, takes a long time. It's going to take us a long time to get out of that. If that's how things are looking at day 10, you would expect cold weather to go on for at least another 4 or 5 days. Beyond that, possibly even a little bit more. There's no quick way out of that when you have that kind of level of blocking around Greenland and Iceland. And then finally the GEM, finally for the shorter range charts, GEM is looking like this. High pressure increasingly moving to Scandinavia next week and dominating the weather through the week, bringing these easterly winds. Now, this one just a little bit further southwards with the easterly again and the high pressure, so the coldest of the air with this one is probably passing just a little bit to our south. But again, we will certainly feel a lot colder with those easterly winds next week than what we've had certainly through the course of November. And that's how we finish up at day 10 with the GEM. So again, still very blocked. The position's a little bit different. It's more from sort of Iceland to Denmark, that kind of position. So again, pretty cold conditions. Not a big freeze, but certainly a lot colder than we've had. I doubt there'd be much in the way of wintry weather, sleet or snow with the GEM. I think the high pressure is a little bit too far southwards, and so the easterly wind is just a little bit too far southwards as well. The ECM is the best run in terms of wintry potential for next week. But again, it's only potential, and you would need to wait, even on the ECM solution, you would need to wait till closer to the time frame to see whether it was just cold rain or something a little bit more interesting. Finally, I said we'll have a look at the charts from Beijing Climate Center. So again, these are the 500 millibar heights. They're broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period will take us from the 16th to the 25th of November, with a large area of above average heights over and to the east of the country. Below average heights then are in the middle of the Atlantic. So high pressure dominates. We've got low pressure to west, high pressure is to the east, and we're bringing in initially a warm southerly wind. Eventually we know it does back into a cold easterly. That's how things look for the next 10-day period, taking us from the 26th of November to the 5th of December. And we have above average heights then to the north and the northwest of the country. So the position of high pressure has changed. We're bringing in more of an east or northeasterly flow. That does look potentially quite cold as we go into the final days of November, beginning of December. Then the next 10-day period takes us from the 6th to the 15th of December, with above average heights centering themselves almost over the top of the country. So a lot of dry weather with that. The high pressure extends back to Scandinavia, but the easterly winds with that one are generally passing to our south. Just dry, quite probably frosty, maybe even very foggy with that one. And then we go through to the final 10-day period, days 31 to 40, will take us from the 16th of December to Christmas Day. And this one has above average heights to our west and northwest, below average heights to our south. We come over here, there's below average heights to our south. And that will be bringing the wind in probably from an east or northeasterly direction. So it does imply that the run up to Christmas could be quite cold there, actually, as the high pressure begins to push back to the north and northwest again, possibly opening the door to something a little bit wintry to move in from the east as we run up towards Christmas. Do bear in mind that's days 31 to 40. It's a very, very, very long way out, to say the least. But just a suggestion, something a bit cold as we run up towards Christmas. So this is how the temperature anomalies are looking for the week ahead. Very much milder than average for the UK and for most parts of Europe as well. A very mild 10-day period to come. But then we go through to the next 10-day period, which is the 26th of November to the 5th of December, going cooler than average or colder than average for the UK. Also, most parts of Europe looking really quite cold as well. So becoming colder later in November and inside of December. Colder than average temperature anomalies are then maintained as we go up to the next 10-day period, which is the 6th to the 15th of November. A little bit colder than average for the UK. Quite a lot colder than average for many parts of Europe. And then the final 10-day period, which is the 16th of December to Christmas Day, that one also hinting at being just a little bit on the colder than average side, not just for the UK, but through most parts of Europe. So a fairly cold, once we get the next few days that way, a fairly cold time of it, actually, with the Beijing Climate Center through to the early part of the winter and possibly even going in the run-up to Christmas. Something a little bit cold going on, potentially. That's all very speculative, highly experimental, long-range models. So let's come back to the shorter range. What we know is that it's going to be staying very mild up to the weekend. Then it's going to start to cool down a little bit. It's all covered by the 5-day forecast, by the way. It'll start to cool down a little bit over the weekend. Next week, we pick up that cold easterly wind. Now, the detail on that is changing as it always does when you're a few days before a cold spell. So just a case of watch your space, really. And we'll know more by around the weekend just how much of this cold air we're bringing in from the east and how cold it's going to get, whether there's going to be any wintry potential. But the broad pattern is certainly setting up a large blocking feature to our north, initially over Scandinavia, eventually by the end of next week, possibly somewhere around Iceland or Greenland. So retrogression looks like it's going to be involved. And that suggests quite a prolonged cold spell, as we explained in yesterday's video. So broadly, it's all still on course. Just the detail is chopping and changing from run to run, as you would expect when you're several days away from what is a very unusual weather pattern. Right, so that's your second video done for today. Tonight, we're going to have the final Christmas update. No, it's not the final Christmas update. What I'm talking about, we've got loads of Christmas updates to go. So it's not the final Christmas update, but we are going to have a Christmas update for you tonight. And then tomorrow, of course, you'll have your regular video update tomorrow as well. That's all for now then, and thanks for watching.